Alright, we're going to get this stuff going. We are going live. So, alright. Give it a second, everybody. So, give it a second. So, we are streaming, everybody, so let's just make sure everything is going good. So, we're officially starting at 5:26, so we're just going to give it a few minutes before we get going, everybody. But everything is looking good so far, so it's going to be really good. We're going to be doing a really, really cool build today, so that is going to be awesome, folks. So it's going to be a nice, really nice thing that we're just going to kind of do. And I'm really excited for this one. There we go. Twitch is live, which is awesome. We are officially live. The announcement should go through Discord. Awesome, awesome. That is perfect. News will get going soon. But we're going to get going soon, everybody. But yeah, I hope everyone is doing well, everyone. This is going to be a really exciting stream. We're going to be doing our first giveaway here, which I'm really excited for, actually. This is going to be super, super sick. So, I am really excited for this. So, this is going to be a good time, everyone. So, let me just double check. And we are live, everybody. Look at that. Again, announcement has gone through, and I think we're good. So, all right, folks. So, I think we're going to get going a couple of minutes early, which is going to be awesome, everybody. So, here's what's going to be happening this evening, folks. We are going to be doing our first giveaway. So, this is going to be a really, really cool thing that we're going to be doing tonight. It's going to be a nice lengthy process. You're going to kind of see my methodology on what we're going to be doing, but we're going to be doing a keyboard today. It's going to be built with Alps, and we are going to be doing a proper giveaway for this particular board. So this is going to be really cool. So let me kind of showcase the board and show y'all what we're going to be building. So I've been teasing this over on Instagram and also on our Discord server, but we are going to be building a SwagKeys Transition Lite and then giving it away to one of you awesome people on the internet, which is going to be really, really sick. So we have the transparent version of the SwagKeys Transition Lite, and it's looking pretty good. And we have the Alps switch of choice that we're going to be using are going to be Alps SKCM White clicky switches. So this is going to be a clicky build. So Alps, especially their clicky switches, are considered some of the best clicky switches ever made. They're really, really cool. These switches are fully restored, fully lubricated. These switches are nice and buttery smooth, and they give us that nice, satisfying clicking noise. So really cool. And one of my friends, Naveed, you may know him as Naveed the Key Guy. He's based up in Canada, and he actually provided the Transition Lite. I was having some trouble tracking one down, so he kindly provided the Transition Lite, which we're using. The plate was provided by Tom over at Hype Keyboards, so huge thank you to Tom over at Hype Keyboards for kind of providing the plates. And of course the PCB that we're going to be using for this particular keyboard is going to be right here. What's up, Gavit? Again, Naveed said he may do a raid for us, which is going to be super sick. So, speaking of Naveed, the Key Guy, again, Naveed did provide this Transition Lite that we're going to be building in today, which is going to be really awesome. Plates provided by Tom over at Hype. And then, of course, we have our PCB. So, this is going to be our TKL Alps PCB. And this was designed by Carolus over at Carolingian.com. And what's really cool, this PCB has a nice RGB underglow, which is going to be really cool. So with this this transparent case, you'll be able to see those awesome RGB colors to give you that pro gamer RGB for this particular keyboard build. And to kind of fit the white theme and transparent color, we're going with these white Matias Alps keycaps, which are going to be really cool. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So before we really get going on the build, what we're going to have to do is we're going to take the switch, we're going to disassemble the case and actually remove the switches. We have to do a little bit of testing of the actual switches. So before we do any soldering, we're going to be testing our switches. So we're going to get our trusty multimeter out. And we're going to be testing switches, folks. So that's what we're going to be doing first. You're going to kind of see a lot of my methodology. And one thing, folks, we're really back into streaming. Again, I haven't really been streaming much lately. Really haven't had much to stream and upload to YouTube as of late. But we have a bunch of really exciting builds. We're going to be on tomorrow with a really cool build. We're going to be doing another vintage build. We did a really insane Alps build on Sunday. Actually, it was yesterday, which was really cool. And we built a Northgate OmniKey with about $600 worth of Amber Alps switches, which was kind of insane. So what's up, Shark? What's up, Shark? So this is going to be a really cool build. So we're going to get this board disassembled and we're going to remove the switches. The switches are just kind of in there for just kind of photo purposes. But this board is going to be available. So the giveaway is currently open on my Discord server. It is a global giveaway. And the giveaway is going to be open until February 2nd. So we will select a winner on February 2nd. This is a global giveaway, so it's not region locked. So you don't have to be here in the United States or like in Europe. Wherever you are in the world, we will find a way to get the board to you, which is really cool. I wanted to make it accessible to everybody. The only really requirement is you need to be a member of my Discord server. It's going to be Finley Design Works. So if you look up my username, you can find my Discord server over at Finley Design Works. So let me just get this case open and then I'll go to my screen share and I can show you guys the actual Discord server and what our giveaway link looks like. So let's just get this board fully disassembled and then we'll go from there, folks. So we're just getting the board opened up. There we go. So we're going to be doing a top mount on this board. So we're taking apart the switches and we're just going to be pushing the switches out. So we have about 84 switches in this board today, or 86 switches about. So that's going to be super awesome. So we're just getting all these switches out. We got to test these switches before we solder them in. I actually figured out how to use my multimeter. So we're going to get that kind of figured out. So we're just going to get this going. So here we go. So we're pushing out all the switches. We're to kind of fit with the polycarbonate theme of the board. Normally I build Alps boards with aluminum plates, but I decided to go with a polycarbonate plate for this particular board. That's going to give us a little bit more flex and actually help with some resonance. One thing about Alps is Alps are a very resonant switch and actually benefit and sound best in polycarbonate keyboard cases. So most of the modern builds that I do are in aluminum metal cases, but this board is really going to sing and really sound awesome within this polycarbonate case. So this transition light's going to be really awesome for these particular switches. So we got about 86 switches we got to do. So we'll kind of leave it to there for right now. Put the switch to the side. So I want to go to my screen share really quick because I do want to showcase our Discord server and how we are going to be joining. So if you go over to Finley Design Works, sorry about that, we're not doing that. Again, this is our Discord server, but again, if you join the Discord server, you're going to find our giveaways channel. All you literally have to do is click this blue participate button and you are automatically entered into the giveaway, folks. So that's going to be kind of our big thing that you want to do. Upon winning, once the winner is selected, I will verify that you are a member of our Discord server. So if you are that lucky person who wins this particular keyboard, please make sure you are a member of our Discord server. If you are not a member of the Discord server, you're going to be disqualified and we're going to select another winner. So if you want to win this awesome board, you want to make sure that you are a member of our Discord server. And those of you who aren't familiar with the Transition Lite, I do want to kind of showcase Careless's website really quick because he's done builds in Transition Lights. So we're not using these exact keycaps, but one thing that's really cool about the Transition Lite is we have the RGB underglow on this particular keyboard. So again, we'll be able to use kind of RGB, and Careless has done some sound tests. So if you want to check out Careless's YouTube channel, make sure to check that out. And those of you who aren't familiar with the Transition Lite, it comes from a South Korean-based company called SwagKeys, and they're really cool boards. They're very inexpensive, but usually what kills it is going to be the shipping from South Korea. So you look, the board's not that expensive, but when you get with shipping, then this board can become, the shipping actually costs more than the keyboard. So huge thank you to Naveed, the key guy, for providing the transition light that we're going to be using today. So we're going to get rid of our windows and get rid of our screen share, folks. So that's really, really cool. So what we're going to be doing now is we're actually going to be testing these switches. We will be swapping out our switch plates if we need to. Sometimes the switch plates are faulty. These are 30-year-old switches. These switches are from the early 1990s. So we just want to make sure that they work. All these switches have been fully cleaned and lubricated, and they're nice and smooth, and these switches sing. They're awesome. So these are the latest version of clicky Alps. The earliest versions are going to be amber Alps, followed by blue Alps. Blue Alps arguably are the best Alps switch. These are the latest version of Alps clicky switches. And these are actually really affordable switches. You can get these for about $1 a switch. If you find someone who's harvested these switches, or keyboards that come with these switches are relatively affordable to track down. So that's what we're doing. So, and these are fantastic switches. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we've got our trusty multimeter out. We're going to get it open and we're going to start testing switches. So essentially what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be touching my 2 contact pins onto the pins of the actual switch. If I hear a nice solid beep, that's how I know the switch is operational. So we got to do this 86 times, but this is just kind of part of the build process and some of my build methodology that I've kind of built in to working on these keyboards. So this is going to take a few minutes, but this is just going to make our lives a little bit easier when we get to soldering, so we don't have to desolder a bunch of switches, and just kind of verify that the keyboard that the client gets is going to be 100% good to go. So that's really kind of the purpose of working in this particular keyboard. So we're just going to get these going, and we're going to touch our pins, and we're going to start testing them. That is good. So that switch is one we want to work with. So that is awesome. Let's keep it going, folks. So we just got to make sure those beeps are good. That's another good switch. So this will take a few minutes. Hello, raid people. Hello, friends. We are having fun. You're literally watching me build a keyboard. What's up, friends? And we are literally testing switches. So we're using our trusty multimeter to test the pine white clicky switches that are going to be going in our board. So the thing is, the thing with Alps that really gives out is going to be the switch plate. So the switch plate is the part of the switch that has the pins that stick out of the bottom of the switch, and that's what you solder into the PCB. That is the point of failure on Alps switches. So what I usually, and again, it's just age. That's just the thing about these switches. These switch plates just give out over time. Again, these are 30, 40-year-old switches. So that's usually the point of failure on these switches. Everything else on these switches is surprisingly robust. The plastic housings, the slider, the click leaf, and then also the springs, those things will last forever. But the point of failure on these is going to be the click leaf. And again, when you press your slider down, that slider makes contact with the switch plate, and that's what sends the signal to the PCB, registering your keyboard press. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. Again, Alps switches are really well built. I've just worked with thousands and thousands of Alps switches at this point, and a ton of vintage boards that I've experienced a high enough failure rate with these switches. So that's why I'm very thorough in my testing, not only for my personal builds, but also client builds, and especially a build that's going to be going to one of you. So that's why I want to make sure that this board is 100% perfect. So when the person who gets this board, it's going to be plug and play, and they'll be able to enjoy this board for many years to come. So that's the big thing I'm about. I want this board to be perfect, and I want absolutely no issues. So that's why we're being very thorough in our testing. So yeah, thanks Naveed. And again, also huge shout out to Naveed, the key guy. Again, Naveed provided the Transition Lite that we are using today, and also Matias is a Canadian-based company, so I actually had the keycaps sent to Naveed, and then when Naveed sent the Transition Lite, he sent the keycaps with them. So huge shout out to Naveed. Naveed was a pretty big player in helping make this giveaway possible. So really, really big thank you to Naveed. So we're going to continue testing these switches. This is just part of my methodology I wanted to showcase, because again, Alps are a lot of work. One thing with Alps, they're old switches, and the only way to get Alps is by getting them from old keyboards. Alps were discontinued in the early 2000s when Alps Electric sold off their keyboard division. So the only way to get these boards is you have to find vintage keyboards from the 1980s and 1990s that have these switches. So you can get reproduction Alps switches through the Canadian-based Matias. But the consensus within the vintage computer scene and just people who are into Alps, those are inferior switches. So, oh my God, Naveed, if you win this keyboard, I'm going to be so salty. I'm just kidding. You're welcome to join it. I actually joked with some of my friends and family. They told them, you guys are welcome to join, but I really don't want to give it to you. I joked with my relatives, I'm not driving it to your house, like down the road. So yeah. Which would be really funny. So yeah, we're literally just testing. So we're using our multimeter. We're just taking the prongs and making contact. And if we hear a beep from our multimeter, that means the switch is good. So it's just going to make my life a little bit, it just means less desoldering. So I finally figured out how to use my multimeter. And it's going to save a lot of time in terms of desoldering. So that's what we're doing. So this is going to be a little bit of a lengthier stream. So we're literally just testing our switches. So we have about 86 switches that are going into this particular keyboard. So if we have good beeps, that's going to be what we are looking for, folks. So, oh yeah, if Naveed wins, we can definitely re-roll and get someone else. Here's the funny thing. I did a keyboard meetup with UC Irvine. It's a local university here in Los Angeles. And I donated a Unicomp Model M that was given away, and my best friend was with me, and he won the keyboard, and the organizers of the event asked, like, do you want it? And I told my buddy said, no, dude, let someone else get it. Like, because again, my buddy, he sees me all the time, and he's also into keyboards. It would have been kind of pointless if he won a keyboard from me. So how do we join the giveaway? So you're going to be joining my Discord server. So if you go onto my Instagram, Finley Design Works, we have the information posted there. Or if you want to look up my username on Discord, you can find a link to my Discord server on my profile. That's going to be the best way to join it. I can do a quick screen share, and we can go over to Discord and show you what we're doing. So if you go over to Discord, you're going to look for Finley Design Works. Just look for the avatar of Gordon Freeman, and then you're going to go to our giveaways channel. All you got to do is hit that blue participate button that automatically enters you into our giveaway. Now, the big thing about the giveaway, there's only one. It's a global giveaway, so regardless of where you are on planet Earth, we will find a way to get the keyboard to you. Oh, that would be, Shark, I'll definitely do that. Let me put the Discord invite link into the Twitch. Let me put it into the chat. And then then we can have people who want to join it. So paste. I don't know why it's not letting me do it. That's kind of weird. All right, give me a second, everybody. Let's see if we can get that. Let me see if we can make it a little more accessible. Let me see if I can make a QR code. Give me a minute. All right, we're going to make a QR code generator, folks. Let's see if we can do this. All right, we're going to make a QR code for y'all to scan. There we go. All right. It hates me. Give me a minute. Think we'll figure it out a little bit later. Yeah, I think I should definitely do that. Oh, there you go. Special K Tech, you are the MVP. So I don't know why it wasn't letting me add it to it. So yeah, definitely join the Discord server because once we choose a winner through the raffle system, one thing that you're going to need we're going to verify that you're a member of the Discord server. If you are not a member of the Discord server and you happen to win, we're going to have to re-roll and select another winner. So in order to win the keyboard, you want to make sure you're a member of our Discord server because we're going to be verifying that. And again, once a winner is selected, I'll DM you on Discord, and then we'll figure out shipping information and again how to get the board to you. And again, this is a free giveaway. I'm going to be covering shipping. I'm covering the cost of the board. I'm very grateful for this hobby and this community. We love metal rectangles. We love technology and just sharing our love for these weird pieces of technology. And this is just my way of saying thank you and giving back. And this is going to be the first of many giveaways I hopefully want to do in the future. So that's going to be a big thing, folks. So you're more than welcome. It's open to anyone on planet Earth. I know some giveaways are sometimes locked to the country the person's in. I'm in the United States. I'm not just going to lock it to the US. So this is a global giveaway. So again, you want to spread it to your friends. Everyone is welcome to join. And also this is, again, one thing, if you know, I do custom Alps commissions, and if you're aware, if you see the Alps stuff that I posted, Alps are not cheap. They are very expensive, especially the builds that I post, like my modern builds or my restorations. There are dozens and dozens of hours in each of the keyboards like the Alps keyboards that I post. So I do build commissions for people, and it's not cheap. Like the people who have done commissions with me, it is quite expensive. But it's just Alps are a labor of love and they require a lot of work. So you're getting a pretty expensive keyboard for again, basically for free. So you're getting it on my dime. So again, this is just my way of saying thank you to the community. So again, please share it with your friends. Again, anyone is welcome to join. So we're going to continue testing these switches. These are known as white clicky Alps, and these switches are relatively late in Alps production run. So these were the basically the third. Oh, here we go. We got a faulty switch plate. We will swap that switch a little bit later on. There we go. It wasn't beeping. That's okay. So we had our first another faulty switch. So we had our first couple faulty switches. That's okay. So, but yeah, these were essentially the third generation of Alps clicky switches. Again, when it comes to Alps, you have 3 clicky switches. You have amber Alps, which are the rarest and most expensive. You have blue Alps, which are arguably the best Alps switch and probably the best clicky switch ever made. If you ever get the chance to try blue Alps, please do. They are my all-time favorite switch. And then the latest is going to be pine white Alps. And white Alps are a really great clicky switch. They're about $1 a switch. And the boards, you have to get them from old keyboards. You can get them from like old FK2001s are probably the most common source of these switches. And the boards you can find them in, or you can usually get them for less than $100, sometimes less than $50. So these are very easily accessible switches. And white Alps get you about, I'd say like 80 to 90% of the way to the feel of blue Alps, which are probably the most sought after and most popular of the clicky Alps. So these are really awesome switches. So and one other thing too about this particular build is we're putting it in a plastic keyboard. So it's a polycarbonate case, and Alps actually sound best in polycarbonate keyboards. Most of my vintage keyboards, my vintage Alps boards, are mostly polycarbonate, versus most of my personal modern builds are going to be made of some type of metal. Alps really sing in polycarbonate cases with a lot of internal case volume. Alps are very resonant switches, especially the clicky Alps. So they really sound best in metal cases. And what's really cool, this is my JO2 just off camera. This has the same switches we're putting in this board. So we can do a comparison of a modern keyboard with these switches versus the Transition Lite, which is a polycarbonate case. So what does it mean when you're restoring Alps? So here's the thing about Alps. Let me just kind of take a break to kind of showcase Alps. So the inherent nature of Alps, you're going to have to get them from a vintage keyboard. So let me pull off one of my boards that I'm restoring right now. So this is one of the vintage keyboards. And again, this board is completely stripped down. PCB, everything's gutted out of it. But these Alps keyboards were used and abused back in the day. Like, these things were tools. People did not think to save these things. These were in schools. They were in businesses, government offices, like everywhere. And people did not think to take care of these. These were tools. So eventually when most people threw these away when these boards came to the end of their life cycle in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the boards you find now absolutely show it. These boards are disgusting when you find them on eBay or like Goodwill or like a thrift store, like an e-waste place. So if you want Alps switches, whether you want to restore the keyboard or you just want to desolder and harvest the switches are going to need a lot of work. Alps, just by their design, are very susceptible to dust and grime and other stuff to get inside the switch housing. And that really gunks up the switch. Alps, when you get them from old boards, they're beyond horrible in terms of their feel. So when you get Alps, they're going to need a lot of love. So you have to desolder the switches. So those of you who come from like the Cherry MX side, a lot of people like vintage Cherry MX blacks. So the only way to get those is from old Cherry MX keyboards from like the 1980s and 1990s. So that's essentially the same concept. You buy an old keyboard with these switches, you desolder the switches, and then you essentially disassemble these switches in their entirety. One thing about Alps, it's part of their design to disassemble them while they're soldered into a keyboard. So what I do, I desolder the switches and then I fully disassemble them and I ultrasonic clean every single part of the switch except for the switch plate. The part that has the pins that you solder out into the keyboard, do not put that in water. That's going to ruin it. So you ultrasonic every component. and then you let those air dry. And then one thing that I have started doing with switches is I add some lubricant to these switches. Now the lubricant I like using is 205G0, and I put that 205G0 on the slider rails on the top housing of the switch, and also on the part of the slider that goes inside the rails. And you use very, very light coating of, you use a very, very light coating of 205G0. If you use too much, you're gonna ruin the switch plate. So you gotta be really careful with lubing these switches. And there's a wide variety of ways to lube them. I do not lube the springs. You can, these also have a lot of spring ping. That's just part of their sound. Some of the keyboards that came with Alps were called Ping Masters. You can lube the springs. Again, just be careful with lubing. You don't want to over lube either the spring or the slider rails, because if that lube gets on the switch plate, that's going to cause issues with the switch plate and potentially kill your switch plate. And that's not a good thing. So that's kind of my methodology with lubing. And again, all of this takes time. To restore a set of switches, it takes probably a couple of days and several hours over each of those days to restore these switches. It is a very labor and time intensive process. So that's one thing with Alps. It's really cool, and I recommend getting into Alps. I think everyone should have it. If you're into keyboards, get an Alps board. You don't have to harvest switches, which I think is the most difficult. What you could do is restore a vintage keyboard. A really good beginner vintage keyboard to get into for Alps is going to be an Apple extended keyboard. You can get those for less than $50 on eBay, or you can get a Dell AT101. Dell AT101s or Apple extended keyboards are really inexpensive. You can get them for less than $50. If you really are smart and patient, you can get them for like less than $30 on eBay shipped. So that's one thing. Those are boards I recommend, and I have both of those boards in my personal collection. They're kind of in pieces in my closet waiting to get restored. So we will have some cool restoration projects. So, but yeah, look into an Apple extended keyboard or a Dell AT101. So Matias, here's the fun thing about Matias. Matias, when Alps Electric shut down their keyboard division in the early 2000s, Matias bought all the tooling and the licensing from Alps Electric. So they technically are official Alps switches. They are not clones. They are this kind of the spiritual successor to Alps, kind of what Unicomp is for Model Ms. Like Unicomp was formed by former IBM employees who bought the tooling and the licensing to produce Model M keyboards in the present day. That's kind of what Matias has done for Alps switches. Now, the thing about Matias switches, they're kind of inferior to OG Alps switches. That's kind of the thing I will tell you. If you're going to get into Alps, I really recommend trying to get OG Alps. Like restore a vintage board, or if you have a modern keyboard you want to convert, find a vintage keyboard, harvest those switches, restore the switches, and then solder those switches into a modern keyboard. That's what I honestly recommend. So, but yeah, Matias Alps are fine. But I really would now if you're kind of scared about, most of the work is going to be harvesting and restoring the switches. If you don't want to do that, Matias switches will be just fine, and that kills like half the work for you. You buy the switches, they're already lubed, they're ready to go. All you got to do, find a plate, a PCB, and a compatible keyboard, and then you just solder the switches in. Now, one thing about Alps, if you're going to want to convert a modern keyboard to Alps, you have to be very mindful. There's going to be a lot of custom parts you need to get. The big hurdle is finding a plate. So once you find a keyboard that's compatible, my recommendation is some type of 60% keyboard or a TKL. The big issue with Alps is keycap compatibility. You're very, very limited on keycaps. So once you find a keyboard that is compatible, then you have to have a plate made. So my go-to guy is Careless. Careless on Carolingian.com is kind of the go-to guy when it comes to modern Alps conversions. You can either look on his website to see if he has a plates made for specific modern keyboards, or you can shoot Careless a message on Discord and see if he has those plate files, and you can get that plate locally made by someone. Alps do take their own plate. The other thing you're going to have to get is finding a PCB. This is another reason I recommend 60% and TKLs, is those PCBs are easy to find for Alps compatibility. For 60%, you're going to want to find an H60 PCB that is solder. There are no hot swap PCBs for Alps. Your solder is the only way to go. So please be comfortable with soldering. Once you find either an H60 or an H87 pattern PCB that supports Alps, then you can restore your switches, solder those in. You got to get your keycaps, and then also you have to find stabilizers. Alps take their own plate mount stabilizers unless you use Signature Plastics DCS keycaps. DCS keycaps are cool because they're kind of a hybrid. They allow you to use Cherry MX stabilizers with those keycaps, which is really cool. So there's a lot of ways, and again, my recommendation. Another faulty switch. Again, just ask people online whether you want to shoot me. You're welcome to shoot me a message on Discord or Reddit or Instagram, or again, go to Careless's website, carolingian.com. I'll do a quick screen share to show Careless's website. So this is Careless's website, carolingian.com. He's kind of, again, Careless is who I consider kind of the guru and the go-to guy for modern Alps keyboard conversions. Check out his website. He has a bunch of plates that he's already made that are in stock. But again, he's just a really good resource. So Careless is definitely a person I recommend. Okay, yeah, Shark, if someone can someone put that invite link into the chat, that'd be awesome. I don't know why that link isn't working. Sorry about that, folks. Again, my Twitch chat kind of hates me right now. We're testing these switches. So yeah, we have 3 faulty switches so far. That's actually a pretty good rate on success, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Alps is a really kind of a niche within a niche. So that and again, they're a lot of work. What kind of turns people off of Alps is the amount of work involved. And one thing within the hobby that's made it very accessible is the advent of hot swap keyboards. The fact that you don't have to solder your switches in is just kind of a really, really cool thing. So that just makes the hobby so much more accessible. But when you get into the world of Alps, you got to have the equipment to properly solder and desolder. And again, I have a pretty cool solder setup to be able to take care of that. But yeah, that's going to be a big thing. Solder is really the only way to go. If we find some mad lad who makes a hot swap Alps PCB, let me know. That'd be awesome. But yeah, there's a lot of cool Alps projects. And again, I always tell people, if you're going to see an Alps board online, like on Reddit or Discord or Instagram, it's most likely me. I'm not saying that to brag, but I've just had people like walk up to me at meets and they say, "Oh yeah, I've seen your builds online." That's how I've gotten some clients to do like custom work. I've actually had the privilege to build like client keyboards for people in different parts of the world. I've done clients in like Israel. I've done people in Singapore, Japan. I've worked for people in Europe, doing commissions, Canada, and all over the United States. So it's a really, really cool thing. Dude, Sip is such a cool dude. Like Sips has his niche with EC. And Sip is such an amazing PCB designer. When it comes to modern Alps PCBs, if you can find Heine PCBs that have the MX and Alps solder holes, those are awesome. But Heine's kind of left the hobby and he's kind of MIA. So Heine PCBs are kind of hard to track down. So here's what I charge for custom work. So I charge you the cost of parts plus a commission fee. Depending on what type of keyboard you want to do, that's going to kind of determine the commission fee, because that's going to determine how much work it is. Like if you're going to do a 60%, it's going to be a pretty low commission fee plus parts. But if you want something like a TKL, a full size, something like that's going to be more expensive. And also what's going to determine price is what type of switches you use. Like if you were someone who says, "Oh, I want amber Alps or brown Alps," we're looking, like for a TKL, we're looking at $500-$600 in switches. So it just depends on what type of switches and what type of board you want to build in. And I also do modern Alps conversions, and I also do vintage restorations. Again, I just restored some keyboards for a client in Japan. I restored a couple of Apple extended keyboards for a client in Japan, which was awesome. The other thing too, I just tell people with the client commissions, I just tell the clients, these aren't going to happen in a few days. Like when I do a client commission, I make it very clear of what the price is up front in terms of price, the cost of parts, my commission fee, and then also this is going to probably take 1 to 2 months to do. Again, these Alps builds take several weeks for me to do. It's a very slow process, but I'm very fair and very upfront with what I cost. I'm going to give you exact breakdown of what the parts cost, and then we'll order those parts, and then I'll tell you again what my commission fee is based on what type of switches you're doing, and again, how much work we got to put into that board, because some boards require more work than others, and also some Alps switches require more work than others. If you guys look into my stream history on my YouTube channel, we did a couple of Key Cult number 265s, and we did green Alps, like green linear Alps. historically have been a massive pain in the butt for me because those are the oldest Alps switch, and I have a very high failure rate of the switch plates. So those switches require more work for me to fully restore and get those switches back up and running. So it really kind of depends, but basically, long story short, cost of parts plus a commission fee. And my commission fee is anywhere between 100 about 200 bucks and on top of the price of parts. So I try to keep it really reasonable. There are people who do commission work who charge you significantly more than what I charge. But I just tell people too, just Alps are inherently a labor of love and they're expensive. To do them right, they're a lot of work. So that's just the thing with Alps. But again, we have some openings in the commission calendar. So if you're interested in doing an Alps commission, like please, again, feel free to reach out and we can kind of slot you into the builds we have upcoming. But I just tell you, just please be patient and acknowledge it's going to probably take 1 to 2 months to get a build done. Because again, I usually source the parts. And also another way to kind of keep price down, I sometimes work with clients and ask them, like, what keyboards do you have in your collection? And I try to tell clients, if you have a keyboard in your collection that's Alps compatible, what I could do to keep price down, instead of me sourcing the keyboard and the parts for the Alps assembly, I just build the PCB plate and switch assembly, and then I mail you that, and then you just drop that assembly into your case. Like, especially for some of my international clients, I did for example, a client in Singapore, they had a Frog Mini from GeonWorks, and I literally just said, don't ship the keyboard to me. I'll just build you the PCB assembly. So I built the PCB assembly for the client, packaged it up well, and that's what I shipped over to Singapore, and the client just dropped the assembly in. So that's another way to kind of keep price down, especially when we get to shipping, and shipping, again, your build to you. So, and again, I do work with clients in other parts of the world. So again, I've done international clients. I'm based here in Los Angeles. So that's been really cool. But yeah, I do recommend people try Alps and other stuff too. Cherry MX is like the vast majority of the hobby, but I recommend people try other switches. I know the switch that's kind of blown up in the hobby is Hall Effect. Again, Hall Effect uses Cherry MX stems, but it's a completely different technology. Again, uses completely different PCB, different types of switches, things like that. They've adapted Hall Effect to work with the Cherry MX footprint, but it's its own switch type. So it's kind of cool seeing other switch types within the hobby really kind of take off. I don't think anything is going to overshadow Cherry MX, but I recommend people get into Hall Effect, try Alps, try Topre, electrocapacitive keyboards, try old IBM stuff. I mean, I'll pull my, give me a second to pull this behemoth out of here. I'll show you buckling springs. Give me a second. You can try old IBM buckling spring Model M stuff, which I also restore too. There's other stuff you want. We can definitely get you some cool stuff. I also have been doing restorations on old IBM boards. So if you want a Model M that's fully restored and whatnot, we also can do that work. So I'm restoring a vintage Model F keyboard, which is the precursor to the Model M, which we will, once everything is ready to go, then we'll build it on stream. So again, we can do a wide variety of things for people, but I really recommend people explore. You can get into some of the vintage stuff for not a lot of money. A Model M, you can get less than 100 bucks. And they clean up really easily and restore really easily, and they're a boatload of fun. So that's why I just tell people there's a ton of ways to enjoy this hobby without not spending a lot of money. Now, just like the Cherry MX side of the hobby, there are vintage keyboards that are just really sought after. For example, a Cherry G80 9009. Those are super rare. A Cherry G80 2100. There are certain vintage keyboards, or an IBM Unsaver. There are certain boards that or IBM Beam Spring stuff that are absurdly expensive, just because of they're rare and that they're so sought after. But for the most part, most vintage stuff you can get it very, very affordably, which is really cool. So it's just a fun time. Okay, that switch is good. So we so far have 3 switches. But yeah, we usually have a fun time. Yeah, but also to go back to someone mentioned SIP for designing PCBs. When it comes to PCBs, you either go Heine PCBs, which again, you just got to find someone on Mech Market who has one. You can go Apple T. Apple T is based in Sweden. So if you're here in the United States, Apple T is not shipping any PCBs over to the United States, unfortunately. So the only way to get his stuff is you have to find someone on Mech Market domestically, or you got to find some type of proxy in Europe who can ship stuff to the United States. Your other option would be Carolus. Carolus makes TKL pattern PCBs, and he has some of them in stock on his website. And also there's a fellow named Alec Tardy. Alec Tardy is an amazing PCB designer who does a lot of really amazing Alps and other types of switch work for PCBs. So those are kind of my go-to guys in terms of designing modern Alps PCBs. Like they're really they do really good work. So and again, pretty much all the PCBs are either Heine, Careless's PCBs, or Alectardi, or Apple T PCBs. Those are kind of my 4 go-to guys when it comes to Alps PCBs for modern keyboards. So almost done testing the switches. Once we get these, then we can start mounting these switches. So it's pretty good. So yeah, we're just doing this testing, but yeah, it's a good time, folks. So like, but again, this is going to be a really cool board, and I'm really excited to see who gets this. The transition, another dead switch, no beeping. So we got 4 dead switches out of this batch. That's actually that's a pretty good failure rate, actually. Because I've done boards, especially with like Green Alps, where we have like a 50% plus failure rate, which like sucks. Okay. That one's good. So, but yeah, it's a good time, folks. So we are just getting this one going. Perfect. That one is testing good. So just testing all these puppy. Oh, let's try that again. All right, that's not, I don't trust that. Swap that one. Cool. We're getting close, folks. Again, this is a pretty quick process. And this is just going to prevent us from having to desolder a bunch of stuff. So, and this is just a way to make sure that our switches work before we put them in the board. Nice. So, this will be really cool. Now, once we get these done, we can start getting everything mounted, which is going to be awesome. Another faulty switch. We're getting close, folks. So, but this is going to be overall a really good experience. And again, I'm really excited. And again, we will be doing other giveaways in the future. So we have in the future, I'm working on a vintage keyboard that we're going to give away. I'd say probably in the next month or 2. So be on the lookout for that. And again, we also will be giving away a Test 65 probably after this giveaway is completed. So be on the lookout. If you want to win a Test 65 that's themed in a really fun way, let me know. Again, we would definitely be doing a giveaway. So another faulty switch. That's okay. So we're just testing these switches. Oh man, another faulty one. So yeah, but there's a lot of work into this keyboard that's been done off camera. So, oh dude, thanks Gavit. Yeah, the SpongeBob build is always a fan favorite. What the? The SpongeBob build is always a fan favorite. I take that one out to meets whenever I go out to a meet, and people love that board. So yeah, that SpongeBob build is definitely a fun time. I freaking love that keyboard. Cool. That one's good. Yeah, so I think Special K-Tech, I think it's really cool. I mean, I tell people too, if you check things like Facebook Marketplace or like Mech Market, like vintage stuff pops up. Or what you can do too, you can go to like old like e-waste recycling centers or like Goodwill or like thrift shops, and sometimes you can get lucky and find some really cool vintage boards for like next to nothing. Like I did a client Alps build restoration. It's on my Instagram page. It was a vintage keyboard that used these switches in really good condition. The guy paid $5 for it. And I'm like, dude, why can't I find stuff when I go to that? Parrot, I hate you. I want an F122 so bad. I mean, I have my battle cruiser back here, which is fully restored. And then I have 2 M122 battleships in my closet that are just on my future restoration projects. I really want an F122 and a Model F-AT so bad. I think, Parrot, are you the one who has like the F-122 that you'd be willing to sell in the future? I know there's someone in Careless's Discord who has an F-122. Yeah, dude, Facebook Marketplace is a really good place to find vintage stuff. You just type in vintage keyboard. Again, Special K-Tech. Again, really cool vintage boards are like old Apple keyboards. Like look for Apple extended keyboards, specifically M3501 and then M0115 or M0116. Those are really, really cool vintage Apple keyboards that have Alps switches. Another vintage board that's really cool are old Dell AT101. Particularly the Dell AT101W is really inexpensive. You can get it for like less than $50. Yeah, Parrot, I hate you. I'm so jealous. Parrot, if you ever sell that, please let me make you an offer. Like, I would love, I mean, if you ever partner with that, please let me make an offer. I would love that board. Yours is a gorgeous example. Because my FXT, I'm restoring. I got my Model FXT for, I got it from Careless. Careless gave me an insane price on it, but it was clapped. Like, the whole thing worked, but it needed a lot of love. So I fully disassembled the board. I cleaned up the top case. Top case looks brand new. The back plate of the PCB and the barrel plate were completely rusted out. So I sanded those down. I refinished those myself, and those came out fantastic. But the bottom plate, the bottom case, the FXT's metal, and it was rusted to all hell. And I tried my best to save it, and I couldn't do it, and I had to get it done professionally. So I took it to my Cerakote guy, and my bottom case of my FXT project is getting Cerakoted right now. So once I get that bottom case back from my Cerakote guy, then we'll be ready to rebuild. I also ordered new inner foam from Ellipse Model F keyboards, and also a new left shift, because we're gonna do a full left shift mod on my Model F. So what's up, Sconis? So again, we will be getting my first Model F on the channel, which will be really cool. And I know the Model FXT is the most accessible and the most common. I do eventually want a Model F AT for its layout, and I want a battleship Model F, and I want the F-122 eventually. So, but yeah, friends, it's a good time. So yeah, we're just testing these switches for this giveaway build. We have about 10 or so switches that are going to need new switch plates, and then we'll test those. So yeah, these are really, really good. So, and then I'm also picking up a keyboard for an Alps project on Friday from a local user. So when we get that keyboard, I'll definitely post about it. And when we're ready to build it, we're definitely going to build it on stream. So I got a cool keycap set in from Careless that this keyboard's going to get. Yeah, the IBM is amazing. And honestly, dude, Special K-Tech, the Vortex makes really good reproductions that are inspired by the old IBM stuff. Honestly, I'd recommend getting a Model M. Like, buckling spring is such a unique keyboard feel, and they're awesome. Like, and they clean up and restore really, really easily. Like, I restored and bolt modded this is my first Model M back here. Again, I watched a few YouTube channels, and as long as you're patient, you go slow and take your time, these boards are very easy to restore and very easy to clean up. It's a little advanced to do the bolt mod. I want to make sure you do your research and know how to do that properly. Anyone can do it as a beginner. I did it my first try, and it was no problem. But yeah, get a Model M. Like, I would recommend, don't spend more than $80 to $100 on a Model M. They made tens of millions of those things. And the people asking, like, over $100 or several $100, with the exception of like an IBM SSK, which is the TKL version, like those are genuinely rare and cost north of $500. But you can get a standard IBM Model M for like less than $100. So just be patient if you shop on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, and you can find easily restorable IBM Model M's for like $50 to $80. So, and they're fun keyboards. They're really fun to restore. And and the Model M is, other than like the development of the QWERTY layout back in the day with typewriters, it is probably the single most important keyboard, because the layout we still use today is based on the Model M. Like almost, again, over 30 years later, we are still using the Model M's layout. Like if you go around the planet in any office or place where there's computers, people are using keyboards that are based on the layout of the Model M. So it is probably one of the more historically significant keyboards, because it is still the industry standard across planet Earth for keyboards, which is just kind of crazy. All right, cool. So these switches are good. So I'm going to get a little cup, just my red Solo cup. Oh, yeah. So yeah, the IBM model, and here's the crazy thing about the IBM Model M, its history. It was actually quite controversial internally at IBM. It took them a long time to develop it, and doing R&D and like surveying people on what layout they thought was best. And some people, like, believe it or not, criticized the IBM Model M at the time, but as history goes, it was the keyboard that won out, and everyone pretty much copied it, and is still the industry standard today. So these switches right here, they need to have their switch plates replaced. So we're going to replace the switch plates really quick. So we're going to be doing a little bit of surgery on these Alps. So I have a metric crap load of switch plates. I have thousands of Alps switches that I have in my inventory. So we have a ton of switch plates to work from. So we're going to swap the switch plates and then test these switches. If these switch plates are good, then we'll be good to kind of continue with the build. So that's what we are doing right now. So this switch plate right here, this has the contact pins that you solder in, and that it has the contact leaf that sends the signal to the keyboard that a key press has been registered. So we are literally doing a little bit of surgery on our Alps switches. So, and that is the point of failure. What we are swapping is the point of failure on these Alps switches. So that is usually what dies and gives out on these switches. So, but yeah, thankfully I have a ton of these parts on hand since I predominantly work with Alps at this point. So I am good on spare parts when things give out. So we are pretty good. So, but yeah, Special K-Tech, definitely track down a Model M. That's my recommendation. Like, they're awesome keyboards, and they are pretty inexpensive, and they're very easy to work on and to restore. And there are really fun ways to customize them too. And the cool thing is you can get a pretty basic like USB converter, and they'll work plug and play on your computer. So, because they use a standardized layout. There's not much you got to do to those keyboards. So, it's funny. I actually don't own a standard IBM Model M. I have the IBM Battle Cruiser behind me, and I have a couple IBM battleships, Model M battleships, but I don't have the standard Model M yet. So, it is on my list of things to acquire for my personal collection. So we're just swapping these right here. There we go. So, yeah, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool vintage computing history. I mean, I'll share you about a little computing history. Back in June, I went up to Silicon Valley. I was in town I was there for a couple of days to see Metallica. They did a 2-night concert, but in between the concert nights, I had a free day. So I kind of, as a nerd, I explored Silicon Valley. And one of the places I visited in Silicon Valley is a place called the Computer History Museum. And if you are a tech nerd or love like vintage computing, like if you're ever in like the San Francisco Bay Area or Silicon Valley, like please go visit the Computer History Museum. It is an absolutely worthwhile place to visit. It's like $15 to visit, like for their entrance fee. And the collection they have on hand of like vintage computers is absolutely amazing. Like they have all the IBM stuff. Like they have an original Apple I. Like they have some pretty historically significant computers. Like one computer I thought was absolutely amazing when I went there. They have a room inside the museum that is literally dedicated to one computer. So they have an IBM computer from the 1960s. And the computer literally takes up an entire friggin' room of the museum. And the thing that's crazy, the computer works, which is so crazy. And they told the story of how they got this computer. Like, I'd say like 10 or 15 years ago, they found a company in West Germany that was getting rid of this computer. And they said, well, as long as you pay for shipping, you can have it. And no one wanted it. And the Computer History Museum found it. And they shipped it back to Silicon Valley to the museum. And it took a team of retired IBM engineers about 5 years to fully restore the computer. And the thing that's just crazy is this computer that literally takes up an entire room that's like over 60 years old at this point still frickin' works. And it was just kind of cool learning about it and seeing like where our modern computers kind of come from. And also it's the tech nerd in me like loves vintage Apple stuff. And to be able to see like an original Apple I that like Steve Wozniak and like Steve Jobs and like the original core crew that founded Apple Computers worked on like with their own hands was like really freaking cool. That was just really, I just kind of geeked out. And the thing that's cool, the Apple I that's on display at the Computer History Museum is signed by Steve Wozniak, which is just like so cool to me. And they have like stuff dedicated to like video games and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. And of course they have a ton of IBM stuff. Like the IBM stuff is really freaking cool. Another cool thing they have at the museum, like they have a Nazi German Enigma code breaking machine, which is just kind of crazy. Like seeing one, most of those machines were destroyed by the Nazis at the end of World War II. So the fact that they have a surviving example of like something that essentially was a working computer back in its day is just kind of impressive. Seeing really kind of important artifacts like that, which is really kind of cool. So like, yeah, if you're ever up in the San Francisco Bay Area, definitely go visit the Computer History Museum. They also have the Intel Museum too, which is really cool. But yeah, there's a ton of really cool tech history. If you're just into tech and learning about it, like there's a lot of really cool stuff. And what's also cool too, a lot of the people who like work and volunteer at the Computer History Museum are like retired like computer software, just like Silicon Valley engineers. So it's really kind of cool. Like I got to talk to some guys who are retired and volunteered there. They were retired Apple engineers from back in the day, and they're of course guys who are like retired IBM guys and Intel people. So it's really, really cool. Like definitely checking that stuff out. So yeah, it's really cool. So like I definitely love vintage computing stuff, and I recommend people get into it. It's a fun time. Whether you're just doing like the old I'm mainly into the keyboards, not the computers themselves, but like even vintage computing is a lot of fun. Again, the machine's obsolete and like, yeah, but it's just kind of cool. Like another cool example, like a story of like vintage computers. I went to Keep Life back in September last year, and I took a couple of my restored Apple Alps keyboards from the 1980s, and it was really cool. And they were at my table on display with my other Alps builds, and it was really cool seeing people who were a little bit older, like people who were like members of like Gen X, like people who grew up in like the 1980s and 1990s, who probably grew up using those Apple computers, those old Apple Macintosh computers. And it was just really cool seeing their reaction of nostalgia when they typed on my old Apple keyboards. Because it took them back to a time in the 80s and 90s when they were younger or when they were kids using those computers. So it was a really cool experience just kind of being able to share that with people. That's part of why I like taking my vintage stuff out to meets. Because there are pieces of tech that I'm nostalgic over. Again, I'm a little bit younger. But like a computer that I'm nostalgic about are the iMac G3s. Those are the iMac G3s that had the transparent colored plastic. Like when I was a kid in school in the early 2000s, like those were the computers we had at school. I just remember like playing games with my friends with those old Apple iMacs from back in the day. So it's a really, really cool. So, oh yeah, dude. Yeah, so old vintage tech, definitely a good time. So let's just test these switches now. Okay, that one works. Just want to make sure these are good. Cool. That one is good. So we're just testing out these switches. So yeah, we're going to be on another faulty switch. It's okay. We'll get that switch plate swapped out. Wait, hold it. That is... That's not consistent enough for me, so we're gonna get that one going. So let's get this one. Another faulty switch plate. It's okay. Again, we're doing this because this is just gonna make building the board actually easier, and I wanted to do this on stream to kind of showcase some of the work that goes into making sure that these switches work. So yeah, switch testing. Blue keys, I figured it out. It's gonna make my life so much easier. That one's not consistent. We're gonna swap those. Yeah, we got that one going. So yeah, blue key switch testing is definitely making life a lot easier. Oh, wait. I think this one's good. Yeah, that one's fine. Yeah, that's what I do. So blue keys, I'm just doing reliable actuation. So dude, the Space Cadet an original Space Cadet keyboard is very, very rare. And if you find one, it's very expensive. That one's good. Yeah. So an original Space Cadet keyboard, I have not seen one in person. That's a very rare keyboard. Again, if you find one, you're looking probably north of about $1,000 for that keyboard. They're very rare, and yeah, they're nearly unobtainium. Like there are certain keyboards within the mechanical keyboard hobby. Oh, like 10,000. Oh my god, yeah. So yeah, way more than I was thinking. But yeah, those are even Shiro-san, who's kind of like a legend within the vintage computing community. The videos he made on the Space Cadet keyboard, that was a keyboard that someone loaned to him to make the video series he did on that. So those are very, very rare keyboards. So good. If you do find one, just be prepared to pay a lot of money for those keyboards. Another type of keyboard line that's very expensive are IBM Beam Spring keyboards. Those predate the IBM Model F keyboards and the Model M keyboards. Those keyboards were mainly made in the 1970s, and they're very expensive. And they're also a lot of work to properly restore those keyboards. But when you find one, they're very expensive. So like you're looking like probably north of $500 for some of the more common ones, but some of the super rare IBM Beam Spring boards, you're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars. So so like yeah, certain vintage things within the key, like or like another like a vintage computer that's very expensive just because of just they didn't sell a lot, and it's iconic and important, is like the Apple Lisa. Like an Apple Lisa is going to run you a few $1,000s. If you want, and if you want an operational one, oh, good luck. That's going to be even more money. So, so yeah, there are certain things within the vintage space that are very, very expensive, just because of either their historical significance or just how sought after they are. And again, something like a Space Cadet keyboard or IBM Beam Springs or like something like an Apple Lisa, it's going to be very, very expensive. Yeah, again, Beam Spring, again, they're just expensive. And they're a lot of work. Now, an alternative for Beam Spring, there's a guy named Ellipse who has a project he runs called Model F Keyboards, and he makes reproductions of the Model F keyboards using that switch design, and he also has started making reproductions of Beam Spring design. The guy is pretty OCD in terms of how faithful he has been to his commitments. His boards are expensive, and you kind of have to know what you're getting into if you get one of his boards. Because they can be finicky. There's some tinkering you have to do to them to make them work once you get them. But once you get them up and running, those boards are really cool. Yeah, but it's really cool. So we're just testing these last 4 switches. Okay, that one's good. That one's good. But yeah, I do want a Beam Spring board eventually. That's not on my priority list of stuff to get. Give me a second. Cool. All right, these are good to go. All right, we're done with the multimeter. All right, stick this puppy to the side. We are done with that. We can start mounting these switches. Start mounting our switches and getting everything going. So there we go, friends. So let's get the top case of our Transition Lite and let's get our plate out of there. So we're going to get our plate out of here, and another thing too, we will be top mounting this keyboard, so which is really cool. So let's get this puppy out of here and we'll get going. So let's get our plate out of here, and then we can finally start building the keyboard, everybody. About an hour in. Took about an hour to do that. So between me blabbering about computer history and whatnot, but let's get this board going, everybody. Again, like I said, this is going to be a little bit of a longer stream. Just wanted to kind of showcase part of the process of building Alps. Is again, these are just due to the age of these switches. You're gonna have to test them, and again, getting familiar with them, how to use a multimeter is definitely going to save you a lot of headache. And also, if you're getting to vintage restorations, especially if you get like a dead like switch contact, you're definitely going to want a multimeter just to kind of make your life a little bit easier. All right, got that out of there. So. And also, we need to get our daughter board out of here, too. We're going to get the daughter board unscrewed from here, because we're going to use that daughter board to test everything, again, once we get the board disassembled. So that's going to be really cool. And then we also have our PCB. We're going to take these little silicone gasket thingies off just to make life a little bit easier while we're putting everything together. So we're going to be moving on to kind of our main switch and PCB assembly. So that's going to be our kind of main part that we're going to do. So there we go. Awesome. There we go. Let's push these off to the side, everybody. Cool. Put those to the sides, put our daughter board to the side, and here we go, folks. So again, we have our PCB. This is called an Alpine PCB. Again, collaboration between Alec Tardy and Carolus of Carolingian.com. And then our plate was manufactured by Tom over at Hype Keyboards. Another thing about if you're going to do your own custom Alps build, please make sure you know the thickness of Alps plates. Alps plates are 1.2 millimeters thick. That difference matters. Cherry MX plates are 1.5 millimeters thick. So again, if you get your own custom Alps plates manufactured, make sure to indicate to your plate maker that you need a 1.2 millimeter thick Alps plate. One of the sponsors and friends of the channel is Hype Keyboards. That's owned by Tom. Tom makes all of my Alps plates. And he's the only person I trust with my Alps plates. He's made a ton of Alps plates for me at this point, and he's the only person I trust with my Alps builds. So if you need plates made, again, please consider going over to Hype Keyboards. Again, they do a fantastic work, and Tom has made a ton of my Alps plates, and he's pretty experienced in making stuff for Alps. So just because of the volume of Alps builds that I've done. Oh yeah, dude, Tom's amazing. I actually did an Alps build for Tom. If you look on my Instagram page, that Frog Mini Passante with Apple keycaps and orange Alps. The Passante is mine, but that internal assembly was actually for Tom's Unicorn. So I built that as a thank you for Tom, as a thank you for all the plates he's done for me, thank you for being a sponsor, and just as a thank you for Tom being such a great guy within the community. So again, please give Tom at Hate Keyboards some love if you ever need custom plate work done. One thing that's cool about Tom too, he's also very experienced in designing plate files. So if you have a keyboard you want a particular plate made for and there's no plate file, you can send him the actual plate file, and then you can send him the physical plate, and then he can reverse engineer it to make the plate however you want it. So Tom's actually done some custom plate work for me, where I've sent plates to him and he's reverse engineered them. I have a Owl Labs Jelly Evolve, and Tom reverse engineered the plate because I reached out to the guys at Owl Labs and they didn't have the plate files anymore for that board. So he reverse engineered it and then sent me an awesome custom plate for my Jelly Evolve, which was fantastic. So big thank you to Tom. He does some really fantastic work. So we're just mounting these switches in here, and then we'll get the rest. And then we'll kind of showcase how we solder these puppies in. So, but yeah, Tom, good dude. So that's my plug for a friend of the channel for sure. So, all right. So there we go. I'm gonna just kind of stick that perimeter in. Kind of go from there. There we go. Cool. Awesome. So now let's get it going. Let's get the rest of them in here. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting feel and sound because again, most of the modern Alps builds I did. Oh, dude, yeah, dude, Tom knows his stuff. That's the thing I was so impressed. And especially with Alps, like Tom is also now a wizard with Alps plates. So if you want to like dive into the world of Alps and convert like a modern keyboard, again, Tom is the person I recommend because I think he probably has the most experience right now of making Alps plates because of all the work that I've sent him and the work that he does for me. So, and that's just a thing to note. Whenever you see me doing an Alps build, especially in a modern keyboard, the plates are going to be made by Tom. He is the only person I trust with my plates. So that's a great thing. So we're getting this going, but yeah, these switches are going to be fantastic. So just getting these beauties in there. So getting them in there. Awesome. So we're just mounting all of our switches, and then we'll kind of work our way around in terms of soldering everything. But yeah, this is going to be an awesome little build for whoever's getting it is going to get a really sick board. So I'm really excited. But yeah, we're getting some good stuff in here. So we're getting everything going, and this is going to be a cool little build. So we're going to see how everything shapes up. So we're getting going. But there are 86 switches on this particular keyboard. So that's really nice. And one thing that's nice too, this isn't a wing keyless board. I know some people really, like me, love wing keyless, but I like that it's Windows key because I know some users do like having a Windows key. So, and this keycap set supports that, which is like really cool. So we're getting it going. Oh, I love these clickies, by the way. They are awesome. Yeah, this board's going to sound awesome. So, and I'm really excited to expose someone to Alps. Like, to actually have, like, one of the boards I've built and to make this part of someone's personal collection. I think is going to be really cool. And whoever gets this, trust me, I think you're really going to enjoy this board. So, and I think these switches are kind of like the perfect pairing. Because one thing I will say, as I've kind of developed in my love of Alps and just building Alps, I think clicky Alps, especially in modern keyboards, clicky Alps really don't sound good in metal keyboards. Like, I do have a couple of my modern keyboards built with clicky Alps, but they don't sound as good as my vintage keyboards, which are mostly polymer, or some of the polymer boards that I've done with clicky Alps. So if you're going to do a modern keyboard with like that's made out of metal, I really recommend linear Alps or tactile Alps. Those are going to sound a lot better. But clicky Alps really benefit from a polycarbonate case or a case, or if you're going to want to go with a metal case, you want to have a metal case that has a lot of internal case volume. But yeah, we're almost mounted with our switches, and then we'll start soldering switches in to kind of hold everything in. So there we go. There is our assembly. You can see those awesome switches. So, which is cool. Let's flip this puppy over. Another thing with Alps, as you can see, they also have a very different pin out too. That's hence why they take their own PCB. See how the pins are a little more parallel to each other versus Cherry MX switches, which they're kind of more diagonal from each other. So, which is really cool. So we have those in. So I'm gonna get my soldering iron filled up, fired up, and we're gonna get going. So let's get our temperature going. Kind of go from there. Let's tune my temperature. Let's get our solder wick going, and we're gonna get the show going, everybody. So there we go. So let's get it going. Oh, so Elk One, the Frog TKL 8K, I have it. I love mine. It's here. Let me go grab it. It's such a sick build. I love mine. I'll show you how it's built. All right, here's my Frog TK 8K. 8Ks are awesome. I have several 8K boards. This is my only modern one, but yeah. Love my 8K cluster. I put a numpad where the 8K cluster goes, and it's awesome. So, really sick board. So, and it's a shame Geon has discontinued the standard frogs, including the 8K frog. So, the only way to get those now is on Mech Market. So, all right. Soldering iron is warmed up, and we're going to get going. All right. So, let's start soldering in these boards. And we're going to see how this goes. So, all right, we're going to get our corners soldered in. That's usually my rule of thumb with these, is just doing the corners. And that just makes life just a little bit easier. Cool. So, soldering in the corners is just a way to make this a little bit better. So that's just going to hold everything down. Oh, nice, dude. I got mine new from Geon back in August, like right before they discontinued the standard frogs. Kind of sucks, but I know Geon's going to bring back, like, Geon has some cool projects for this year. I'm a big Geon fan. Like, if you're going to do, like, modern Alps conversions, my recommendation is Geon boards. They're the easiest to convert because they take standard PCBs. So that's the really nice thing about Geon boards. They're very easy to convert because Geon uses standard parts. He doesn't use proprietary like PCBs and whatnot. Like, for example, a board that would be a pain in the ass to convert would be like a Matrix Labs board. Like, everything about Matrix Labs boards is proprietary. Oh, for $100, dude, that's insane. I'm so jealous of that price because I paid the $250 MSRP plus shipping for mine. So I am very jealous you got yours for that price. That is an amazing price. So, yeah, so we're just soldering in our corners. And then once we have our corners in, we'll kind of work our way around the board. So, yeah, once we get these in, it's pretty good. Nice. Get those soldered in a little bit better. Nice. All right, we got our 4 corners in. So now everything is kind of held in. That's going to make our life a little bit easier as we kind of get this soldered in. So we go to our space bar, do our bottom row really quick. That's always really nice to get done. So we're just going to kind of work our way through the board and kind of go through it. But yeah, this is going to be a really cool process. This is the part that probably takes the longest, soldering in. Once we get everything soldered in, we'll move on to installing our stabilizers and then our keycaps. And you'll kind of see why Alps stabilizers can be kind of finicky. So we'll do that on stream. So this is going to be really good. Okay, we got that bottom row going. So let's seat these switches down. Awesome. Just making sure everything is properly seated. So. Nice. Alright, what's up, Clicker-Clacker? Welcome, welcome. Again, we are doing a giveaway, folks. This keyboard we are building, you are able to, one of you lucky people on the internet is going to win this. So, information is on our Discord server. That Discord join link is up on our, again, is up in Twitch chat. So again, if you want to scroll through Twitch chat or just look up, go to my Instagram page and it's on my profile. Join our Discord server and go to the giveaways channel and you can join the giveaway there. It's going to be open until February 2nd and it is a global giveaway. The only requirement is you need to be a member of our Discord server. If you are, when we do the raffle and if you are selected as the winner and you're not a member of the Discord server, we're going to have to re-roll and select a new winner. So when you join the giveaway, make sure you are a member of our Discord server. That is going to be the key requirement to join our giveaway. So make sure you are a member, folks. Because if you win, you don't want to make sure you lose a really awesome keyboard. So, again, you are getting, again, essentially what I would do for a high-end custom client build for free. So, again, Alps are not cheap. And again, this is my way of saying thank you to the community. So I really encourage you to win, and this is a global giveaway. So I am not region locking this to the United States, which is where I live. This is going to be open to anyone on planet Earth. So just so you want to let your friends know, if you just want to win, if you just like winning free stuff, you are welcome to join. Again, this is open to anyone and everyone. Just make sure you're a member of our Discord. There we go. All right, got our bottom row. Let's finish up our arrow cluster really quick. And then we'll do our navigation and home cluster. Okay, let's go to our home cluster over here. So we are getting it going. Awesome. Getting these switches going, everybody. And again, this is a solder board, so if you do win this, one thing about Alps is solder is pretty much the only way to go. So that's just something to note. So there is no swapping these switches. And the person who wins this, I don't recommend desoldering this unless you have an issue with switches. I really just recommend keeping this board as it is built. And for the most part, and we're going to thoroughly test this, even though we did test the switches with the multimeter. Once this is fully soldered together, we will test it again. And over this next week, I will be doing thorough testing just to make sure there are no issues with the board. Because when I send this off to the winner, I want to make sure that this board is absolutely perfect for that person. So that is just one thing about this board. So you're going to get a flawless keyboard in terms of how it works. Cool. All right. That's looking good. So let's get these other pins soldered in. We are coming along, folks. We are coming along. So yeah, and this is a SwagKeys Transition Lite. So really, really cool board. And we are really excited to get it going. So we are soldering this puppy in. And it's going to be awesome. So we're going to definitely be promoting this board and encouraging people to join our giveaway, folks. Awesome. It's looking good. And one thing about this board, once we get it plugged in, it has RGB underglow. So with the transparent case, this board will look really, really sick, especially in the dark. So you get that pro gamer RGB. with this particular board on the underside of the case. So that's going to be super, super sick. Awesome. Cool. All right. Navigation, home cluster is done. Bottom row is done. Escape is done. We're going to do our modifier keys now. Let me just get a little bit more solder as we kind of go through, and we'll keep going. So, all right, we're going to do our modifier keys really quick. Cool. Awesome. Let's go over here. Awesome. Perfect. All right, let's keep going. Cool. Let's go over here. All right. Awesome. We'll do a little bit of a test here. All right, let's go over these modifiers really quick. Make sure. All right, that's looking good. I'm gonna do a quick pause. I want to test something because I think there may be something we gotta fix here. So let's take a look at it, folks. But yeah, look at that. So that is our assembly so far. So we're gonna plug it in really quick because I do want to test how vial works. So let's go and let's get my vial open up. One thing about this board too, if you win this keyboard, this board uses vial, V-I-A-L, not via. So I personally like vial a little bit more. So as you can see, we have that RGB underglow, which is super sick. But I want to test these switches that we've soldered so far really quick, just before we kind of move on. All right, that's good. Okay, that issue I thought would be a problem isn't going to be a problem. Nice. Yeah, so our switches that we have soldered in so far works perfectly. I want to make sure we're set up correctly. All of our key bindings are good. Oh yeah, exactly. So one thing is like Blue Keeps just said in the chat, you can reprogram this to whatever you want. This is a fully customizable keyboard, so you're just going to use Vial, not Via. So this is a Vial keyboard for, again, customization or reprogramming. So we are good. Oh, also, let me just showcase some of the Pro Gamer RGB that you can do. So that is a cool feature of this board. So again, let's go. Oh, I closed Vial. Dang it. Give me a second. So one thing that just to showcase while we're taking a quick little break. Again, the lights look a lot better in person. My camera is doing a really crappy job of showcasing it. But again, we do with lighting. It also is fully RGB, and you can do a kind of crazy stuff. So let me go to. Let's go to like breathing. We can go breathing. We can do like pinwheel. Let's go to like full RGB. We can go different colors. Let's do cycle all. There we go. Like we can do a ton of different things. Like we can do the cycle of the pinwheel. So you can go full crazy on this particular board. I'm going to turn it back to white just to make my life a little bit easier. So we're just going to go back to white. There we go. So just so I don't go blind or go crazy. But yeah, you have full RGB control. So that's super sick with this particular keyboard. So, but yeah, fully customizable and reprogrammable. So that is something that is really cool with this particular keyboard. Awesome. That worked out pretty good, actually. I'm pretty happy with how that came out. So, all right, let's go to our F-row now. That's the part that's kind of a pain in the ass with this keyboard. So we'll get those soldered in, but everything works so far. So that is a good sign, everybody. All right, let's get her going. Let's get it going. All right. So kind of work our way and just get one or so pins in there. Cool. But yeah, having that full Pro Gamer RGB on the back of this keyboard is pretty cool for some customization. And I usually put this PCB in most of my like modern metal keyboards, but I turn the RGB off because you can't see it because it's a metal case. So this is a cool board. We'll be able to kind of whoever gets it, you can really, if you want to have those Pro Gamer RGB color accents, you can do that with this particular board. Now there is no per key RGB backlighting. It's only for the bottom of the keyboard. So just an FYI, we're not fancy like Cherry MX. So, all right, awesome. So we got those single ones in there. Now we're just going to load in make sure everything is properly seated. Awesome. Perfect. Didn't get that switch in there. Grab that. I'm just going to switch right here. So, now once we get the F-row done, the alpha numeric cluster goes pretty quick. That one's good. those switches are seated, and now we'll fully solder the switches in. So, which is pretty good. So that's the one nice thing about this, is we can definitely get some good options for these switches. So let's solder these puppies in. There we go. Let's give it a little bit more right here. There we go. Cool. Coming along slowly, so. Awesome. That was good. Let's go over here. Let's get a little bit more. Just holding these switches in. And once we get the F-row done, we're kind of in smooth territory for everything else. Awesome. Coming along. Got like 4 more of our F-row, and then the F-row is pretty done. So we are looking pretty good. Cool. Cool. All right, our F-row is done. Just wipe that off really quick. So it's coming along. So our entire perimeter is done, and we're feeling a little bit more rigid with things being firmly attached to the PCB. So that's really good. But yeah, it's sounding really good. So now we just got to do our main alpha and numeric cluster, and we will be good in terms of everything being properly seated on this. So yeah, it's coming along. And then once that's done, then we'll start doing stabilizers. So Alps stabilizers are kind of a pain in the butt. So let's get this puppy going. So making good progress. So let's get these going. cool. It's looking good. Let's get these properly seated. Cool. That is looking good. Doing our number row right now. Once our number row is good, then we'll move on to our main alphas. Coming along. Yeah, but it's a really good time, folks. Again, I'm really excited to see who is going to get this. So, alright, cool. Number row is done. Let's put a little bit more on these two really quick. There we go. Alright. Let's move on to our next row, folks. Now we're in our last 3 rows, which are the alpha cluster. So that's going to be really nice. Cool. Coming along, folks. Coming along. Awesome. Cool. Let's properly seat these. Awesome. We are coming along, folks. We are like almost there. Alright. Cool. wiping off that. Coming along, folks. We got like 2 more rows. Looking really good on this one. Cool. Got like 2 more rows, everybody, and then we'll get to the fun part, keycaps. And then we'll be able to do final assembly on this beauty. Coming along. Cool. So going good. Cool. Alright. Thank you for the activity on Discord, everybody. I just got a ton of notifications. Alright. We're in our second to last row, which is awesome, folks. Looks really good. Let me fix that one really quick. Cool. Looking good, friends. Alright. Yeah, we're really getting into the soldering right here, folks. Let's move my mouse out of the way. Alright, cool. We are almost there, friends. Just got to do this last row, and then we are done soldering, which will be cool. So, we're getting there, friends. Alright, and then this one. Cool. Alright, let's properly seed these. Seed these. And we'll be good. Cool. Alright, so those are properly seated. We just got to do the last set of pins here. And then we'll be ready to do some testing really quick. bit more. We're good. All right, cool. All right, we are done soldering, everybody. Look at that. All right, let's move our soldering equipment out of the way. And let's see how we got it. All right, cool. Let's flip her over. Look at that, folks. We got our PCB switch assembly done. So that looks gorgeous. Let's plug her in and do a little bit of testing, everybody. And then we'll install our 5 stabilized keycaps here. So let's plug that in. Let's get Vial opened up. And I'm going to go through my matrix tester really quick. Actually, here, folks, we'll do my screen share, and you can kind of see what our vial looks like. So let's go to our screen share. Let's go there. And here we go, folks. We are in vial. So this is what you can kind of expect to see. Again, everything is fully reprogrammable and customizable. You can change your layout. You can do macros, different layers. Of course, the lighting controls are all right here. But we're going to the matrix tester. So we're going to reset it, and we're going to start testing our switches. So we're just doing our arrow cluster. Everything looks good here. Everything's looking good there. So looking good so far. All right, that's our screen. Pretty good. Let's do our F-row. I don't think we're going to have any issues. We did thoroughly test our switches, so we should be fine. Our windows. That's good. Let's go to our out number row. Then we'll work our way through the alphas. Looks good so far. Ah, damn, we have a dead switch. Darn it. All right. Well, we'll get that one fixed before we do keycaps. Can't win them all, but that was actually pretty good. All right, we have one dead switch. That is okay. So we have one of our bracket buttons right there. So that is okay. So there we go, folks. So let's unplug this and let's get that switch desoldered. So we're gonna get the desolder gun out. Where the heck did I put it? There it is. There you are. Give me a second. All right. Give me a second. Let's get this puppy fired up. Let's get these tools out here, and we'll go from there. All right. Let's plug her in. And let's get it going. There we go, friends. All right, we got the solder gun out. Let's get her fired up. Let's remove any clogs from this thing, and then we should be good. So let's desolder this switch. We also got to get our trusty multimeter out because we're going to test the new switch plate we're going to install. So there we go, friends. So we're getting the soldering gun fired up, and then we're going to go from there. So looking really good, friends. So let's get them going. So that's actually not too bad. That's actually a really good success rate in terms of switches. So just that one switch right there. That's our one dead switch. So we'll fix that. But yeah, this came out really good, and it's actually surprisingly rigid. I mean, there's still a little bit of bounce. Once we get it installed, we'll see how flexy this really is. But yeah, let's get that heated up. Oh, well, there's your problem. I only soldered one pin on this little bugger. Never mind, we don't gotta get the desolder gun out. Oops, that's my bad. Well, there's your problem. God, I didn't solder the last pin. False alarm, everybody, we don't need it. There we go. Hey, that's why we do this live on stream, so you can see when I make a mistake. There's your problem. Alright, let's fix that really quick. Oops. didn't solder that pin in. Good Lord. So I'm like, yeah, we tested everything. I'm like, yeah, there's no pin. There's one pin that's not soldered. Let's get that fixed, everybody. All right, come on. Heat up. There we go. Let's give this a second to warm up, and there we go. There we go. All right, we're good. Crisis averted. There we go. So I really wanted to start on keycaps. That's like the fun part of the build. Alright, let's plug that in. Let's try that again, everybody. Take two. Take two, everybody. There we go. Get that plugged in. Let's test that friggin' button. Alright, let's do... Hello, everybody. We're going to go back to there. Yay! Buttons work. Alright, we're good. Alright, everybody. Alright, let's unplug this. Let's get everything going. There we go. Let's start putting keycaps on. We'll kind of showcase our keycaps. So, here we go. So, we are using Matias keycaps. So, Matias did take on the licensing for Alps switches and the tooling after Alps discontinued their keyboard business. So, these are from Matias, which are really cool. So, we have kind of these white keycaps with this kind of gray lettering. So, these are going to be really cool. So, we're going to get our stabilized keycaps out. So, we need our shifts. Got both of our shifts, and then we just need to find our backspace. There we go. So, we're going to start off with those. We'll stick the rest of our keycaps off to the side for right now because we're going to focus on getting these puppies together. We're going to get our 205G0 out. Let me find my brush to do that. And yeah, we're also going to need our stabilizer parts. So we're going to start off with our spacebar first. So let me get my spacebar parts. Kind of figure out what we're going to do. Spacebar wires, all that jazz. So let's get it going. So cool. So let's figure out how we're going to do this and we'll go from there. So yeah, you're going to figure it out with me together. You're going to get to see the weirdness that is Alps stabilizers, which are so much fun, everybody. Okay, that's not going to work. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of figuring out to do this, everybody. It's all good. There's that one. Need one of them. There we go. Cool. All right, let's get that. I have so many. Oh yeah, as you can see, this is my graveyard of Alps stabilizer parts. It tells you how many boards I've harvested. Since I've gotten into Alps, I have a lot of parts. So, like I said, also, if you ever need spare Alps parts, let me know. I'd be happy to supply you with those as well. I've also supplied people with like stabilizer parts and whatnot. So, we're doing the spacebar first because the Alps spacebar is kind of the biggest pain in the ass when it comes to these boards. So, I usually just like getting it out of the way first because it is the most painful. Because it's just kind of a pain in the butt. So, those parts away. Awesome. Blink. Alright. Let's take those away. Let's get out a spacebar wire. That is not long enough. Alright. Cool. Go to my other bin of parts, figure out what we got. Alright. figure out how we do this. It's always fun figuring this out. So we're gonna go to my timeout box because those are actually really long. These are really long space bars. Let's figure it out. Give me a second. It's again, Alps spacebars are kind of this is part of why they're a pain in the ass. Let me see if I can do my tail anchor. Give me a second, everybody. We're gonna see what we can do with these little buggers. So, yeah, this spacebar is kind of a pain. I remember the last time I built with these keycaps, the spacebar is kind of a pain in the ass was stabilizer compatibility. So we're gonna try these boat tail ones for co-star stabs. Again, this one's literally a pain. This spacebar sucks. I'll just put it that way. I mean, it's a good keycap set. I do remember when I did this, when I built with these keycaps spacebar, I hated working with. So let's just do my test fit. I haven't figured out exactly which ones I want to do. Come on, there you go. Yeah, that's gonna suck. I don't think that's gonna work. It's not gonna work. Okay. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. All right, cool. Good to know. Good to know. All right, we're gonna flip these clips really quick. See how that works. Again, spacebar, biggest pain in the butt on these. Just as an FYI. So. Alright, let's try that again. Okay, let's remove these. Cool. Let's move these boat tail anchors. Come on, there you go. Cool. We are winging it as we do this, so it's okay. Gonna get this spacebar working, everybody. So that is the ultimate goal. I think we found our solution. There we go. Cool. It's a hybrid of parts, so it's okay. OG parts with tie-how wires. Okay. Alright, let's put those away for right now. Let's grab... Also, for whoever wins this, when you get the board, do not ever remove the stabilized keycaps because they're just a pain in the ass to put back on. So my advice is, if you ever need to clean this keyboard, do not remove the stabilized keycaps. That's just my advice. Because again, the build I sent to Tom was curious how the stabilizers work, and he told me he took the stabilizers off, and he said it was an ordeal putting the stabilizers back on. So just FYI with that. Again, these just can be a pain in the ass, so just be aware. As you can see, it's being a pain in the ass. All right, cool. Give me a second. All right, cool. There's that one. Where'd the clip go? God, I'm losing stuff. I'm losing it. Losing it, people. Good Lord. Well, what do you want? Oh, cool. Thanks, ESPN. All right, cool. Got those clips in. That's good. Now let's get this stabilizer wire lubed up because we do want to add some 205G0 because we don't want crap rattling on this damn thing. So. Let's add a little bit of lube of the wire that's going to interface with the clips on the bottom. Just so we don't have any of that going on. And we'll insert those wires. All right, cool. All right, there we go, friends. Well, shit, that's not gonna work. Special K-Tech, first finish line. Yeah, we're getting to the finish line, everybody. Okay. Well, that ain't gonna work. All right, cool. All right, we're gonna go with Plan B, everybody. All right, cool. We are gonna go with a different option. Give me a second. All right, we're gonna get some different stab parts. I think I remember what I did with these originally. So, there we go. I'll use some boat tails. Give it a second, folks. So, yeah, it's alright. Again, this is Alps. They're fun, but they're also a pain in the ass. It's okay. I love these things. I mean, I am a glutton for punishment when it comes to working with these switches. So, we're going to use these puppies. Okay. We're going to do a little bit of compression right here. Cool. Let's reapply some 205G0 to these wires. Alright, let's try this again. Yeah, it's okay, my man. We're figuring it out. It is okay. Thanks, Blue Cubes. Like I said, it's always a good time. Yeah, figuring out Matias spacebars is always fun. And again, as y'all can see my struggling, these spacebars are a pain in the ass. There we go. Got it. Lord. That was a pain in the ass. Again, whoever wins this, do not ever remove this, please. That is my only advice. So, there you go. Alright, cool. Spacebar's on there. Yeah, that's all I ask you. Don't ever remove this. These stabilized keycaps are on here till the end of time, please. They're a pain in the ass. That's all I'll say about these stinking things. Alright, let's get the rest of this. I'll use tie-how for the rest of this stuff, so alright, cool. Alright, let's move those. Let's get the wires over here. Cool. Alright, we're going to need 3 of these, and then a 2.75 wire. So, yep. And then we'll get our little clips here. Yeah, the spacebar, that was the hard part to stabilize. This is the easy part now. 2, 4. Alright, cool. Got that. We're good. Let's get the rest of these clips in here. And then we are smooth sailing. So, it's a little finicky getting them in because this is a PC plate and it wants to flex on me. So we just gotta be careful. Yeah. Just wants to flex. All right. That one's in. Move over to our shifts or enter. So, you know, once we got our stabs on, we're pretty much in the clear. So that's the nice thing about this. Cool. And cool. Those are in. Let's just put these wires in here. Let's put the wires on. Cool. Let's get these wires in here. And then we'll get that right shift in here. There's that one. Let's get that 275 view. Cool. Let's figure out. I think we go outer. Okay. Almost there. Cool. Almost. Cool. All right, those all the wires are installed, so that's nice. Let's get the bottom clips installed on these puppies. Yep, wrong part. Oops. Poured a bunch of parts I don't need. We gotta install the clips on the bottom of these keycaps, and then we'll be ready, basically ready to mount them. Alright, let's put a different part. Where the heck are they? There we go. We need that part. These little buggers. Cool. So we're going to mount the black ones. Cool. Get these little clips in here, and then we'll do final assembly of our stabs. And then we will be good. There we go. Okay, let's get these other stabilizer parts put away, and then we'll be ready to go. Alright, I'm going to put the rest of these stab parts away. Give me a second. Because we're pretty much done with all these stab parts. So let's just clean up a little bit, and then we'll do final assembly of these main stabilizers. Alright, cool. Alright, let's do this. Let's lube these wires. Alright, this is going to be our left shift. So good. Let's go to our backspace next. Alright. Let's get that backspace mounted. That looks good. Let's get our enter. Okay, let's get that enter installed. Perfect. And then our right shift. Cool. So a little bit more right there. Cool. Cool. Just get that going. Give me a second. I just want to get something really quick. There you go. Cool. All right, friends. We are done with 205G0. Actually done with most of our tools now, which is nice. I'm going to put most of them away. So give me a second. We're going to put a bunch of our stuff away. We'll leave our keycap puller out. There we go, friends. So we have our stabs on. All right, let's get the rest of our keycaps and let's start putting them on. Let's get them going, friends. Let's spread them out so we can see everything and we'll get going. So let's put them on. And we'll really see the character of this board come together. And this board does come with a number kit, so numpad kit, but we're not using that for this purposes of this build. So we are getting everything going on this one. This is looking good. Give me a second. All right. Not using those. So yeah, so now we can get onto the final home stretch of this build, everybody. So once we got keycaps on, we are going to be pretty good to go. Yep. Looking good. So we got our F1. Use that one. Control. Looking good. So yeah, we are getting this puppy built. So we are in the home stretch, everybody, of this particular build, which is really nice. Gate key. Yeah, this is looking really sick. Scroll up, goes right there. Yeah, it's starting to look like a board. That is the crazy part about this. There's our little Windows key. Got our tab, so we got all of our big keys on here now. Another numpad key. Yeah, we're filling in nice. All right. Almost there, friends. Got our home cluster filled in, so that's nice. Got our F row filled in, number row's almost done. All right, let's just put this. We're gonna do final assembly, folks. Look at that. We'll be able to hear how this board sounds and looks, which will be sick. All right, folks, there we go. Look at that, folks. That looks awesome. So there we go, friends. Very old school clicky and clickety clackety. Love it. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's do final assembly. Let's start putting this thing back together. Let's put our daughter board in here. So let's start grabbing all of our goodies here, and let's put our daughter board assembly back, and we'll kind of go from there. So let's stick it in there. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna stick our daughter board back in here. All right, stick that to the side because now we gotta focus on our PCB assembly. Let's put this back here. Let's put our little silicone gasket sockies on. And then once we have those on, then we'll screw her in. And then we'll really showcase this build, and then we'll get on out of here, folks. I'm actually making really good time, folks. Considering the first hour was dedicated to testing switches, we have made very good time on this build. But again, like we weren't really in a rush to do this one. Okay, we got those on. Let's flip it over. Let's do these. All right, cool. Now, we're going to take the assembly and we're going to place it inside the case. And then we'll get that top mount going. All right, let's get the top mount secured. And we'll go from there, friends. Ah, crap. Cool. That's a little bit better. The only thing I do like, there are threaded metal inserts on this Transition Lite, which is very nice. Cool. Alright, we got the good chunk of the top mount completed, which is nice. Alright, last top mount screw, and then we'll connect the top and bottom cases. Alright, so there we go, friends. So you can see kind of what we look like from the top. Oh, it's going to sound so good. Let's get that JST connected. Okay, we got the JST connected. Now we are just gonna place our top case and our bottom case together. There we go, friends. All right, there we go. Now we're gonna screw in the cases together. And let's see how this puppy comes out. Then we'll do a sound test and then we'll let y'all go and we'll get some pictures and post this all over the internet, folks, to let people know about our awesome giveaway. Cool. A few more case screws. And then we'll plug this puppy in, do a little bit of testing, and then we'll turn that Pro Gamer RGB on. Alright, we are getting close, friends. We are near the finish line. Alright, here we go. Alright, friends. Let's put my rest of my tools away. And then, yeah, we're good to go. Alright, let's move my little mat here. There we go, friends. Let's show this puppy off. There we go. Alright, that is a Transition Lite built with Alps. This is awesome. Alright, let's plug this in. And I want to do one additional test. Oh, man. We're going to definitely showcase that RGB. Let me get my Pro Gamer RGB going. Give me a second, because that's what we really need. Let me do this one. Oh man, that is so sick. Alright, let me do... Give me a second. I want to try and do that. Oh, that's so sick. Let me do... There we go. Let me go into my snouts, open up my switch tester really quick. Give me a second. Oh man, look at that. Yeah, just the white suits. I think the white suits it pretty well. I just wanted to showcase weird pro gamer RGB. So yeah, that looks pretty sick. The light, my camera does a really crappy job of picking it up, but that's pretty sick. So I think it's pretty good. So yeah, I just want to showcase the pro gamer RGB. Let's go to my screen. We'll go into Vial really quick. And let's go to my tester really quick. Just testing everything out. All right, let's minimize that. Let's turn off our screen share. All right, sorry about that. I'm just gonna I'm gonna get my lighting back to normal. So we're just gonna go to solid color, and we're gonna go with white. Let's save that. Perfect. All right. We're just going to keep it with white for right now. But yeah, that's really cool, friends. Look at that. So awesome. Let's do a little bit of a sound test, and then we'll kind of get on out of here. All right. We're going to unplug it just so we're not messing with the tools. It's pretty loud to be. I mean, it's loud. Here, if you want to compare it to like something loud, let me grab the Blue Alps board. Like that's loud. Here, we'll compare it to like the two other clicky boards. Give me a second. All right. Cool. All right, folks. We're gonna compare this board to some of our. So this board right here, this is one of my Northgate Omni keys right here. So this has Blue Alps. These puppies are loud. So Blue Alps, this board is just a very loud board. Here we go. Like Blue Alps, White Alps. Here's White Alps. Blue Alps are awesome, but yeah, this is. Oh, dude. Yeah, it's great. I mean, here we go. Here's the Blue Alps. Now, those are Blue Alps. Those are by far my favorite and what people consider the best. Here's a build I did yesterday, which is, this has $600 worth of Alps switches in it, by the way. These are Amber Alps. So, Amber Alps, really, really loud. So, OmniKeys, badass. Love those things. But here's this build right here. This is my JO2. And this has the same exact switches. The only difference, this is in a metal case. Oh, dude, I love the shine on my Northgate OmniKey Ultra. It's great. Here are these ones. So you can kind of hear what these switches sound in two modern keyboards, a polymer keyboard and a metal keyboard. So here's this Transition Lite. And here is the metal JO2. So, very different sound, but I think that's pretty much it, folks. That is our build, and I think this looks pretty good. I'm really happy with how this came out. So, we're going to get off here, folks, but we're going to be taking some pictures of this particular keyboard. Yeah, I think that sounds I think that, again, clicky Alps sound way better in polymer cases. But yeah, this is a really cool board with our modifiers. So yeah, this board sounds fantastic. I love how it came out. So yeah, this is awesome, folks. So again, our giveaway is going to be run through our Discord server. Again, the giveaway is going to close on February 2nd. So a week from today, we will again we will do our raffle and we will select our winner. This is a global giveaway. It's through my Finley Design Works Discord server, so just kind of go in there, and it's going to be under our giveaway channel. All you got to do is hit the button under the giveaway channel. Now, the only requirement is you need to be a member of our Discord. So if you win the raffle and you're not a member, we're going to have to re-roll and select another winner. So make sure you are a member of our Discord to join this. So we're going to get on out of here, everybody. Everyone who kind of popped in at different points throughout the evening, thank you so much. We're going to be on Twitch tomorrow doing a board, folks. So we're going to do if you're curious, we're going to do a vintage restoration of another OmniKey board with some really rare Alps switches. So these are also some very expensive Alps switches. So be on the lookout tomorrow, folks. So have a great rest of your evening, everybody. Thank you so much. And again, the VOD will be on YouTube later tonight, folks.